friends, today we're going to review Knowledge 9, Lesson 4. Let's look at our learning targets. I can review the elements of fairy tales. I can identify characters, settings, and events in a fairy tale. I can understand the word retrieve. I can practice using the conjunction so. I can use a graphic organizer to retell and identify elements of a fairy tale. What have we already learned? We've read Sleeping Beauty, Rumpelstiltskin, as well as Rapunzel. In Sleeping Beauty, we discussed the setting, characters, fantasy, problem solutions, and the ending. We also filled out our elements of fairy tale chart for Rapunzel and Rumpelstiltskin. What do the fairy and Rumpelstiltskin have in common? They both make something magical happen. What do Rumpelstiltskin and the witch have in common? They both bargain to take away someone's first child. Fairy tales often have magical characters with special powers. Fairy tales also often have royal characters. Who are some of the royal characters from the 3 fairy tales we've heard so far? The king, queen, princess, and prince in Sleeping Beauty are all royal characters. The king and queen in Rumpelstiltskin are royal characters. The prince in Rapunzel is a royal character. The fairy we will hear today is called the Frog Prince. What royal character is mentioned in the title? That's right, Prince. Do you remember any princes from any of the fairy tales we have heard already? There were princes in Sleeping Beauty and Rapunzel. The prince in Sleeping Beauty was brave and woke Sleeping Beauty up with a kiss. The prince in Rapunzel falls in love with Rapunzel and is tricked by the witch. Rapunzel cures the prince's blindness. The princes are alike because both are sons of a king and both live happily with their princess. This is a picture of a green frog. Sound make. That's right, ribbit. But remember, some frogs can make a cow-like sound. Frogs eat insects. Where do frogs live? Frogs live both in water and on land. Let's review our learning targets. I can review the elements of fairy tales. I can identify characters, settings, and events in a fairy tale. I can understand the word retrieve. I can practice using the conjunction so. I can use a graphic organizer to retell and identify elements of a fairy tale. Courts are people who help and work with a royal leader. Glee. Glee is joy or delight. Retrieve. To retrieve something means to find it and bring it back. Someone wailed, they cried loudly. A well is a deep hole made in the ground to get water. Listen carefully to hear a story about a magical frog and how he overcomes a problem. Prince. Once upon a time, a mighty king lived in a palace in the shadow of a dark, mysterious forest. He had only one child, a beautiful little girl with long, flowing hair, and her favorite plaything was a bright golden ball that looked just like the sun in the sky. Day after day, she would run and skip under the shadow of the huge forest trees, tossing and bouncing her ball to amuse herself. She liked to pretend that her ball was indeed the sun, and that the whole wide world was hers to play with. One day, however, as she spun the ball in her little hands, it slipped from her fingers, rolled over the leafy ground, and fell, splash, into a deep well. She ran quickly to the edge of the well and peered in, but her beautiful golden toy had vanished into darkness. How do you think the princess feels? Have you ever lost your favorite toy? She began to cry loudly because she was not used to disappointment when she suddenly heard a timid, scratchy voice behind her say, "What's the matter, princess?" Spinning around, she realized that the speaker was the ickiest frog she had ever seen. "I have dropped my ball into the well, and it is lost forever," she wailed. Wailed is another word for saying cried loudly. The frog looked at her and blinked. "I could get it for you if—" "Oh, Froggy, I'd give you anything you want if you could get my lovely ball back. You can have my crown." "I do not want your crown," the frog said. "Or all my jewels," she offered. What would a frog do with jewels, he wondered. "I do not care," the princess snapped. "Just get my ball." "Well," the frog said, "I do not want jewels, but I do want a friend. It is a lonely life being an icky frog. If I fetch your ball from the dark, chilly well for you, will you agree to be my friend forever afterward, and love me and share everything that you have with me?" Do you think the princess will agree? "Of course," the princess promised, but in her heart she thought, "Who cares what that old frog wants? He'll never leave this well anyway." The frog did not thoughts. However, he dived eagerly down into the well. A few seconds later, he emerged from the water holding the precious golden ball between two slimy webbed hands. "It was very cold down there," the frog remarked, but the princess was not listening. Why do you think the princess wasn't listening? "Hooray!" she cried, and seizing the ball, she immediately ran back to the palace. The frog croaked after her, "Wait! I cannot run as fast as you." She ignored him, however, and considered the matter settled. Do you think the matter is settled? Why or why not? Court feasted. A loud knock sounded on the door. The princess loved visitors, so she ran to open the door. But who should stand on the palace stairs but the icky, warty frog? She slammed the door in his face and ran back to her delicious dinner on her golden plate. Behind the heavy wood door, though, she could hear him croaking, "Oh, careful, careful, Princess Fair. Promises are more than air." Fair means to be charming and or otherwise pleasing. "Who was that at the door, my daughter?" asked the king. "Nobody, just an old frog," she said, and she told him how the frog had retrieved her ball from the well, on the condition that she would be its friend and share everything she had with it forever afterward. She thought her father would be pleased with how she had escaped the frog's demands, but to her surprise, he frowned. "Daughter, we must keep the promises we make. What kind of kingdom would we have if we all treated each other the way you have treated this poor frog? The frog kept his promise to you, and he helped you. Now you must keep your promise to him. Go and let him in." The princess was shocked and wanted to refuse, but she could see from her father's stern look that she had to obey. Unwillingly, she got up and opened the door. The frog was still sitting patiently on the steps of the palace. When he saw the princess, he smiled happily. A smiling frog is quite a sight to behold, and bounced up and down with froggy glee. The frog bounced up and down with joy or happiness. What do you think is going to happen? We're going to read the rest of this fairy tale later and see if your prediction is right. At the beginning of the fairy tale, what happens to the princess's golden ball? It fell deep into a well. How does the princess feel about this? She is so sad that she wails or cries. Why? It is her favorite plaything. Help the princess. A frog offers to help the princess. The princess feels when she turns around and sees the frog. Tell someone next to you what you think. I think the princess felt surprised to see a frog. What does the princess have to promise in order to get the frog to retrieve the ball? The princess promises to be a friend, to love the frog, and to share everything with the frog. Do you think she intends to keep her promise? And what are some clues that tell us how she feels about her promise and the frog? The princess does not intend to keep her promise. She slams the door in the icky frog's face. What does the king say when he hears what happened? He tells her she needs to keep her promises. The princess is shocked and wants to refuse but doesn't. What is another clue that tells us why she obeys and lets the frog in after all? The king's stern look tells the princess she must obey, keep her promise, and let the frog in no matter how she feels. How do you think the frog feels when the princess lets him in the palace? He was happy and filled with glee. How do you think the rest of the court feels about a frog being invited to the palace? Tell someone next to you what you think. In the read aloud, we heard, the princess told her father how the frog had retrieved her ball from the well on the condition that she would be its friend and share everything she had with it forever after. Retrieve. Say the word with me. Retrieve. If you retrieve something, you got it back. I from my dog. At a time when you retrieved an object that you dropped or lost. What's the word we're talking about? Retrieve. Think about what you might have retrieved from the place I asked you about. Remember to answer in a complete sentence and use the word retrieve. Have you ever retrieved something from under your bed? Have you ever retrieved something from a friend? Have you ever retrieved something from your backpack? Have you ever retrieved something from a pet? From the floor. Let's look at our learning targets. I can review the elements of fairy tales. I can identify characters, setting, and events in the fairy tale. I can understand the word retrieve. I can practice using the conjunction so. I can use a graphic organizer to retell and identify elements of a fairy tale. Conjunctions are a kind of word we use to connect words and phrases. We use the conjunction so to join phrases that tell us what will happen. The princess loved visitors, so she ran to open the door. The word so tells what happened or the effect. In this sentence, the word so tells what happened because the princess loved visitors. It started raining, so we took out our umbrella. What does the word so tell us in this sentence? In this sentence, the word so tells what happened after it started raining. The title of our story today is The Frog Prince. This story is the place and time a story takes place. Our story took place in a forest and a palace. Let's listen to the first sentence of The Frog Prince again. Our story took place a long time ago. The royal characters are the princess and the king. The magical character is the talking frog. The magical event that occurred in the first part of the story we heard today is the frog talks. We will finish filling in the rest of our chart after reading part 2 of the fairy tale. Let's review our learning targets one last time. I can review the elements of fairy tales. I can identify characters, settings, and events in a fairy tale. I can understand the word retrieve. I can practice using the conjunction so. I can use a graphic organizer to retell and identify elements of a fairy tale. Happy learning!